All right. Well, we've started another recording with Gratex, and this one is focused on ungroundedness. And we've already covered a few topics while we were off the air, but at the same time, how to relay ungroundedness to the YouTube public. I say Gratex brings it out in me differently than the vortex of amendum, kind of always appealing to pragmatism, always appealing to secondary knowledges as opposed to immediate inferences. And so that's kind of where we are right here, I think. What you say, Gratex? Drunk Gratex? we get a we get a smile and a wave. Um, yeah, try because I was trying to get away from pragmatism and bring the conversation up into quote unquote spiritualism or inferences of coincidence and the meditation that comes along with trying to derive meaning from these inferences of coincidence and now Gratex has gone silent.
Well, I'm sorry, but you started this recording and you brought the subject up, and at the moment I feel like I need to piss. And that's a very material friggin' thing, isn't it? Needing to urinate. And, that gives credence to the whole grounding friggin' philosophy, doesn't it? You've got to do these things and there's the chemicals that need to pass and all that sort of thing. So that creates an entire friggin' problem.
Yeah, somebody already brought that up because I was talking about primacy of consciousness over primacy of physicalism, and I mentioned that I had to piss, and they said, "Well, that pretty much settles it. The primacy is in the physical." But it doesn't change the fact of people being able to infer. But if you have to go piss, go ahead and go piss. Don't let me hold you back. Um,
It's okay, I can hold it in.
See, there we go. He can hold it in. His value of self allows him to retract the physical and maintain something that's a bit beyond that. And we have six more people in the room. They're not really commenting too heavily since we started this topic, but it's curious. It would be curious to see what other people type in the room also. Um, A is a bit of a
Well,
pragmatist.
how about sorry, man. How about starting on deja vu? I mean, what is deja vu all about? We've all had this feeling, and science, in quotation marks, has tried to explain what deja vu is all about. But there's some extreme feelings that we have as human beings about having been there before. Um, is this some kind of cyclical thing that we're going through and our consciousness is going through? We're feeling these things because perhaps that we have already been through this and this is a cyclical thing that we're going through. We're just repeating the same mental things on and on and on and on in order to teach us something, which is what some people prescribe it to be. But what is it all about? Is it just some kind of neurochemical thing that's going on that makes us feel a certain way, or are we feeling that way because we have been there? And what is the whole consciousness thing anyway? And, serious questions like that.
Yeah, deja vu is a weird sensation. Trying to think about what it is that we bring to the table. If you're going to take a strictly pragmatic view, then you're ignoring deja vu, or you're secondarily guessing that what it is you just sensed is grounded in just a psychologist's dream of what is possibly going on, when the fact is that when you're experiencing it, you're in a whole different mind frame than a pragmatist mind frame. And so, yeah, that's an interesting question, because I believe most people experience a sense of deja vu, a sense of being there and having done that already in their lives at some point or another. So, I'm curious of what the public has to say about that. Um, yeah, someone types glitch in the matrix. We are pattern seeking. That it's a natural pattern recognition approach, and that we've simply reiterated in our minds some patterning that's already occurred. That the idea of repatterning something is something that the human mind is capable of doing, and so a pragmatist, after you're outside of the incident, then you can think about the pattern recognition. But it's being caught up in the deja vu, in the moment of deja vu, that is very, it's very exciting. At least for me, it's very exciting when that happens. What you say, Gratex?
I think it's great that you hit on pattern recognition. I remember making a YouTube video about objectification and how we see all these different colours and wavelengths of light and so on, and we turn these wavelengths into patterns. We turn these other sensory perceptions, sound and so on, into patterns, and then we make them something. I mean, one of the arguments I made in the video is the tree crowing, or is there a crow in the tree that is crowing? I mean, is it the tree? Is it the crow? How do we distinguish these things? And we distinguish them by objectification, by pattern recognition. And the same with all these rest of these things. I mean, how do we make sense of our perceptions? But I can't remember where I was going to go from there. But there's that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just finding curiosity in your immediate environment, in the patterns that you sense. I was shaken when I brought my hand to the fridge. It cast a shadow, and it looked as if a rat was running up the side of the fridge for just a brief instance. And just the thought a rat is running up the fridge was something to investigate in my mind. Like, why would I why would I associate that? What does it mean to find something lurking in the shadows, and grant it some sort of extra alternative meaning that is somehow associated with a different dimension of consideration, a different dimension of thinking altogether. And that's the realm that I'm more interested in discussing than the pragmatic. We are evolved creatures that have these different thought patterns, and appealing to some authority that's going to tell us what the meaning is, as opposed to appealing to one's own instantiation of an instance. And so it's kind of a rough it's a rough sale. Because a lot of people won't tune into it. They'll categorically consider what we're speaking to be nothing more than just a mere happening. They don't want to grant it any special credence. They don't want to grant it any exterior agency. and they're left with that. And I say that that's an appeal to pragmatic authorial inheritance. So so it's interesting. Tell the YouTube people about the walking under a street lamp again, if you would.
Okay, well, I'm in agreement with you, and I will talk about that, but I remembered what I was going to talk about. You've got your little Morgan there, your little cat, and if you play with cats, you know that cats really can't objectify in the same way that we can. Your cat will haunt and hunt and bite your fingers and other extremities with kind of what I perceive to be an inability to objectify your hands as being part of yourself. It's like they can't quite perceive that your hands and other extremities are part of your own being, and which kind of gives credence to this whole materialistic aspect of it, in that it's all psychological. But once again, I'm so drunk I can't even remember what you asked me to do. The street lamp thing, yeah, it's like you walk under a street lamp and the street lamp goes out, and you're thinking, well, this is special. This has happened to me, and this never happens. I never see street lights going out when I'm not walking under them. But now that I'm walking under one and it goes out, this is some kind of special occurrence. But again, there's these two aspects we can take on it, although I don't like binary thinking. That there's this spiritualistic aspect, which is it happened for a reason, to wake you out of some kind of mentality or state of mind that you are in, that may be quite robotic and unspiritual. And also there's this other side of it which says, well, there's an interiorly materialistic perspective behind this that says, how often do you ever see a streetlight going out? And how many streetlights are there that do go out that you don't see and you don't walk under? So this could just be one of these things, perhaps every 10 seconds a street lamp goes out and you don't see it occur, but once you're walking under one, it does occur. It maybe just be this amazing coincidence. So then we have this entire binary set of thinking which says, there could be this perspective of, it's an entirely coincidental thing that's occurring here, and there's X% of streetlights that do go out, and you just happen to be walking under it. But on the other hand, the feeling that we have from this one streetlight going out whilst we walk under it is so profound, emotionally, that it might make you think that there's something else going on. But is there something else going on? Is there some kind of extra-dimensional, non-rational, non-human explanation for these things occurring? And that is the only thing that I'm interested in investigating. The material things are boring, and we've explained them all, and we have a model to explain them all. But these sort of extraterrestrial, extra-rational perspectives are the only thing that's truly friggin' interesting, and we should be investigating them.
Yeah, that was so well said. I thought that was really well said. And I want to grant over the majority of that to the alcohol, but I'll give you some credit as well, Gratex, for enlightening us on that idea. You don't actually sound plastered by any stretch of the imagination. It's Yeah, it's exactly that. The models have already been given. We already know what the pragmatic explanation is, but it doesn't change our indulgence in the immediate awe of the situation and wanting to find out more about what that awe is consisting of is kind of the root. Um, and how to get people to speak more about these instantiations of occurrences as being profound, as being meaningful, as being part of the dialogue that starts with the consciousness, that starts with the theater of consciousness and stems outward, as opposed to a mere pragmatic reiteration of the models of where we came from or how we're composed or how things come about. We all kind of have that idea that's already grounded, but to bring up historic or to even call it a primitive type of investigation or belief is a beautiful thing. And so, what do we do to invite that kind of discourse? That's kind of the aim is inviting that kind of discourse into the pragmatic discourse as if it has value and quality to to bring in as a philosophical exchange, as something that needs to be discussed more now that we've rooted ourselves in our differentiated opinions about life and the universe and everything. How do we include this kind of discourse and invite it in, so it's not to be looked at in a ridiculed sort of sense. That's the aim, and that's what I think should be talked about more so. That's what I would like to see talked
I
about.
agree. I agree entirely. It's like we've got two um, seemingly extremist positions, which is the materialist one and the ludicrous, obviously, theistic one, in which God does everything and does everything for a reason, simplistic reasoning, and we've got this rationalistic sense of it's entirely random. There's no great meaning behind it all apart from Higgs boson. Um, and there's these extremist perspectives that we either have to cling to one or the other in a binary sense, and there's no in between. You know, the Bible is ridiculous, but still there can't be a God because the Bible is ridiculous kind of mentality. We just simply don't know, and we need more explanation, more exploration, sorry, in this field, and there just isn't any.
Yeah, just isn't any. I mean, that's why I subscribe to New Agers and spiritualists and magicians and, people that are in extreme religious modes of thinking that appear to be bordering the psychotic or psychotic themselves, because they're at least discussing things that are out of the regular model. And so it's almost I feel like it's my place in this philosophical community to try to open up an avenue of discussing the supernatural, the paranormal, the coincidental, in a sense that it should be taken seriously, and and yet, like you say, there is no real discussion going on that bridges these schools, and hopefully the internet will bridge the gaps between all of these types of thinking, and when a bridge has occurred, then I think that'll be, I don't know, that's what I look forward to, are the bridges.
I agree. I agree. We need some kind of bridge. If it isn't cheesy, and there are lots of cheesy people out there who want to press their God and their belief and so on and so forth. I know a lot of liberal Christians in this country because there are no real right-wing Christians in this country. Um, but you know, you have that extreme. We have extremists in this country, and it's a relative thing compared to how it is in other countries. But we have this mentality that there is a God, but given Dawkins, there is a God meme, and I understand that entire concept. There's something I think that needs to be explored that is beyond that, that is beyond our comprehension. And there's a possibility, a probability, there is something like that. And you know, the main crux of the problem is it just some psychological thing? Since we are psychology and it's explainable and we can go through it all in textbook format, or is there something beyond it? And my experience is, I don't friggin' know. You know, my experience is quite extreme, um, and touches on both ends of it. And whether if I'm comfortable, I err on the side of rationality and materialism. But if I want to probe more, I have to err on the side of immaterialism. And I want to probe more. And I want to understand these things. And I don't think materialism offers that opportunity to truly explore these things. So hence I tend towards this side of immaterial.
What could really be done to, besides people discussing the coincidences or experiences that they've had or associations that they've made in their mind, like what sort of dialogue do you think, like what should it look like? What should it look like? What should a bridge look like between considering these alternative vantage points of instances that are explained through psychological, considerations and histories of psychology? Like how does somebody discuss it in a serious manner without without other people, the viewer, automatically appealing to the physical, historical, psychological pragmatism? I mean, do you have any ideas of what you think a discourse would look like other than our discourse?
I honestly do not have any idea. You know, I'm deeply into the whole psychological aspect and how I may be thinking and how I feel myself to be thinking. But I am second guessing. The experiences that I've had through near death have led me to think that there may be some other aspect to this, but it may be some deep down subconscious aspect to it, which always plays back to psychology. So I'm at this point of there are no answers. You know, there are always questions, and that may in itself be a positive thing.
Hmm. Okay. Well, and I'm in the same realm. Like I'm left to question. I don't have a clue what it would look like to see people start drumming up conversations that bridge philosophy with quote unquote paranormal activity, or just taking seriously the subconscious as it brings its rears its head. But I don't know. I like this amount of discussion for this. I think I'll close this video with what we've said already, because it sounds like you know, we've expressed maybe a good starting point, and we can just let it go with that.
Yeah, it's a good starting point, and I'd like to discuss this more, um, maybe more personally, as towards my experiences. But yeah, it just to me, it's just this confusion between not knowing and knowing, but not knowing, and which side to err upon. It is always just a constant friggin' problem in my personal psychology.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too. Which side to err on? I like how you phrasing that. Okay, we'll go ahead and stop this video with that, and feel free to comment below on this one, or feel free to, you know, make a video and drop the link in the comment section. I would like to see people's response to this. Thanks.